Good morning, grade 7, and welcome to the second semester. And let's start in quarter 3. First, let's know what we're gonna study in this quarter. Actually, we're gonna start the matter and all the properties of the matter and the materials. So it's more easy than the last quarter. I hope you enjoy, inshallah, this topic. So let's start at the first lesson. And the first lesson is just an introduction to the matter. So, what is matter? What do you know about the matter? Actually, the matter is everything around us that has a mass and has a volume. So, let's think more about anything around us that has a mass and volume. Have a look around you. Yes, pencil maybe a matter because it has a mass and volume. Yes, the laptop, yes, the chair, the table, all of these are matter because they have mass and volume. So let's think more about chemistry wise or from the science point of view. What is a matter? Which means what's around us that has a mass and volume. We can say the air, we can say the oxygen, we can say the carbon dioxide, we can say any liquid, we can say any powder, we can say the iron, the cobalt, the calcium, the magnesium. All of these are matter because they has mass and they has a space or volume. So what is a mass? Actually, the mass is the amount of the something or the amount of matter in an object. And we can measure the mass through a tool that's called a balance scale. So we use the balance scale to know the mass of the object. Even us, if we want to know our mass, we're gonna use the balance scale. Okay? And there's a measuring unit for measuring the mass, which is a gram and kilogram. The grams for the small masses and the kilogram for the large masses. Okay? Okay. In this point, you have to know that there is a difference between the mass and the weight. What is the difference between the mass and the weight? The mass, as we said, is the amount of the matter, while the weight is the force of the gravity that pulls the object down. So what's gravity first? The gravity is the great force that's found under the ground and that pulls everything to the ground. The measuring how much force is pulling the object to the ground is called weight. So the measuring unit of the weight is Newton and not kilogram or grams. Also, you have to know some highlights about the difference between the mass and weight. The mass does not change with just changing the place or the planet. The mass is still the same in every place, while the weight will change according to changing the gravity, which means if you travel to the moon, you will have different gravity than the earth, so you will have different weight. So the weight will change according to the position or according to the planet that you find in. Okay? Okay. So we have take what's mass, let's know what's volume. Volume is the amount of the space that an object takes up or occupy. So the amount of space is the volume and the amount of the matter is the mass. So how do we know, how can we know the volume of something? If it's liquid, we can use a tool that's called graduating cylinder, and it's just like a cylinder and it has many graduates, graduate 10, 20, 30, 40 and so on. We only put the liquid inside it and it will tell us simply what is the volume of this liquid. So this is how we're gonna measure the volume of the liquid, by using a graduated cylinder or using a beaker. Okay, so for measuring the solids, we have two types of measuring the solids. If the solid is well defined and a regular shape, we're gonna use a mathematical equation to calculate the volume of this object. And this mathematical equations equal to length times width times height. So we're gonna multiply the volume of a regular solid by multiplying the length multiply width multiply by height. And of course the unit will be cubic meter or cubic centimeter according to the unit that we use. And take care that the unit, it has to be the same in length and width and height before calculating the volume. Okay, so What if we have irregular shape? We have irregular shape that is not well defined, just like a stone. We have a method that's called displacement of water, and we will get a graduated cylinder and put in it a pure water without anything, and get another measuring cylinder and put the same amount of the water and put the irregular shape solid, and the difference between them will be the volume of the irregular solid. As you can see here, the volume without the object is 35 milliliters, and the volume with the object is 40 milliliters. So by subtracting the 40 from the 35, we will get the 5 milliliters, which is the volume of the irregular shape, or the volume of this stone. Okay, so we know what's matter. It's everything that has mass and volume. We know the mass and we know the volume. The mass is the amount of the matter, and we can measure it through the balance scale, and the measuring unit is gram or kilogram, while the volume is the amount of space, and we can measure it if it's solid or liquid. If it's liquid, we can measure it in the measuring cylinder or the beaker. If it's regular solid, we can use the mathematical equation by measuring length times width times height. If it's irregular, we can use the displacement of water method. Okay? Okay. The last thing in this lesson is the density. What's density? Actually, density is measuring two factors. We measure the amount of matter in a given volume, which means we measure the mass according to a given volume. So it's obvious that the rule of the density is equals to the mass divided by the volume, because we measure the amount of this matter in a given volume. Which means if we have a cup of a liquid has a solid inside it, so we're gonna measure the amount of the solid in this cup of water. Okay? Okay. The objects that have the same amount of mass can have, we say this again, that we may have the same mass, but we may have different volume, and we may have the same volume and we have different masses. Okay? Okay. So you have to know that the density equals mass over volume, and the unit for measuring this is equals to gram per cube centimeter, or grams or kilogram per cube centimeters. Okay? Also, you have to know that the water has a density of 1 gram per milliliter, and the objects that are greater than 1 milliliter will sink down in the water. It will displace the water. But the object that has density less than 1 will float in the water. Okay? Thank you so much, and hope you enjoy this session.